OnlyFans is a platform that allows stars to market their physical attributes for economic value. The platform thrives upon desperation from both parties in the transaction. One side's desperation is economic, the other's is affection and lust. It enables both of these to be fulfilled through a false connection. For guys who are desperate enough to spend their money on OnlyFans, the process looks like this. The woman, or rather a manager pretending to be the lady, will spend time messaging these men with pics and promises of how special they are. The guy will then message back this faker while deluding themselves into believing these messages are real, causing them to spend more and more money to keep the chat going. It's predatory in a way both familiar and new. You know what they say after all, sells, but so does romantics. This site takes it one step further than those typical platforms you can find online. It's not just preying upon lust, it's also preying upon the need for interpersonal connections, feeding into the minds of the delusional, lonely, and often low self-esteem men who can't see themselves finding women in real life. So they get into these chats and are encouraged to waste more and more money on these women to receive personalized content in return. But that's only one side of the coin. Everything has its good and bad. With light, a shadow trails quickly after. But in this situation, it's more like it's bad and very worse. Let me pose to you a hypothetical. Let's say there are two types of men with polarizing characteristics. First, we have a glass half full kind of guy. He has goals but doesn't mind taking his time. He's a chill guy. And the other guy, he's a glass half empty kind of guy. He needs constant change and something new. These types tend to have addictive personalities as they strive for stronger chemical releases in the brain. Now let's apply these two types to OnlyFans. The first dude is having situations similar to what we described before. He has this weird parasocial interaction on the site, but doesn't go any further than bikini pics and underwear. It's incredibly unhealthy, but it's probably the healthiest way one can interact with a website. The other needs something new, needs constant change, so he delves more and more into this degenerate content with bigger stakes and grosser activities. And this type of guy is exactly how we get documentaries like the one we're covering today, where this woman sleeps with 100 men in one day for OnlyFans. The title speaks for itself. Now, can you guess, will this go poorly or great? Well, the lady at the beginning of this documentary thinks, oh, this is amazing, this will go wonderfully, and she seems to have no issues with it.
I think other people in the industry definitely look down on me for doing this, but I think at the end of the day, people forget that it's also my fantasy, and this is also something that I'm really enjoying and want to do and have wanted to do before I was even in the industry.
But once it's all said and done, and we see her after this stunt occurs in the documentary, we can see that it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows like she thought it would be.
If I'm honest, it was hard. I don't know if I'd recommend it. Like, it feels intense.
Like more intense than you thought it might?
Definitely.
Sorry. Okay. It's okay. Just take
Yeah, 1 minute.
And my biggest question coming out of all of this, why? Why did she do this? It's not like she needed the money. She literally confirms that she's rich. She has bank already. She made $30K her first night and is making so much now that she won't even disclose the amount.
I'll show you my first month. $13,338.
And can you give us like any indication as to what a more recent month might look like?
I'll just show you. I don't really want to say if that's okay.
I think it's more money than you might be imagining.
You could probably shut down her account and live a much better life than most people, but for some reason you decided to up the stakes and do this stunt. I think the most insane part, and probably the reason why this all went through in the first place, or at least a major factor in it, was that there was not a single person making her rethink this decision. Everyone around her seemed to be encouraging it with no critiques. She even says at the beginning that at first her parents had a problem with it, but later on they grew to accept and be encouraging of it.
I've never really cared what people think. It doesn't really bother me. I have such a supportive family and friends, and what they think about me is so much more important than what strangers think about me. Well, my parents knew straight from the start, about what I was doing. Yeah, I was just very open with it. Obviously at the start they were a bit apprehensive because they want me to be safe and they want me to make good decisions and stuff like that. I just think I can't hold myself back.
And they just had no issues with it apparently, which in my opinion has to be the result of greed. They saw how much their daughter was making and just couldn't bring themselves to step in the way anymore. Money bends many morals, it seems. and it's honestly a result of a materialistic society which seems to value monetary value to the point where these extremes are even considered. I think one of the most depressing parts of this documentary is the change you can see in her opinion on the situation before and after the stunt takes place. It honestly makes the documentary more like a psychological horror film. Before the incident, she talks about how it's something amazing and she's always wanted to do it. And then her description afterwards is just heartbreaking.
I think sometimes like feeling so like robotic, like by the, I think like the 30th, you know, like when we're getting on a bit, I've got like a routine of like how we're gonna do this, and like it just, sometimes you like disassociate and be like, you know, like it's not like normal sex at all. In my head right now, I can think of like 5, 6 guys, 10 guys that I remember, and that's it. But it's just, I don't know, it's just weird, isn't it? Like, if I didn't have the videos, I wouldn't have known I've done 100, you know?
Moreover, she wasn't the only one affected by this. The guys who participated in it expressed a lot of anxiety and shame after the event. One guy even said if anyone found out, he'd be kicked out of his house.
He seemed shaken by the experience.
How are you feeling?
It's not something that I'd normally do, but I saw it. I feel not much wrong.
Yeah. Do you know how many guys have gone before you?
No idea. No idea.
Yeah, like is that one?
Well, yeah, but I don't really know. I'm just a bit nervous when you think you'll find out. My dad would kick me out straight away.
Really?
Yeah.
To go to this extreme and make such a decision despite potential ramifications, to me, is a sign of a depreciated mental state in all parties. I don't believe anyone really benefited from this process. It all seems like distraught and mentally unwell people engaging in activities that are obviously harmful. These are the kinds of situations that OnlyFans encourages. We can see this even more in an interview that the host of the documentary did with another creator. He basically talks about how the industry pushes these stars to do more and more in order to keep the attention of the masses.
But it is a slippery slope, and the demand is more. Before you know it, you're having sex on camera.
And is that something you regret?
There's a lot I regret on there.
Do you feel scared that you might ever have to start doing things you don't want to do in order to keep that money coming in?
It is scary, yeah.
Now, this is something that is relevant in all entertainment industries, not just adult. But the worst part about the adult one is the fact that it's pushing them to do more extremes of activities that are very detrimental to the mental state, despite the income gained. There are some activities that are just not worth the income or temporary satisfaction those participating receive. And I think this documentary is such an important example of what a detriment this industry can truly have on everyone participating in it. It also shows how important a good circle of people truly is. She said she barely had friends because of her job, and those around her had monetary incentives based on her acts. You can see how little they care about the fact that they were so relaxed about this whole situation, despite everyone outside of it, including the person making the documentary, seeing a ton of red flags. It seems she is in somewhat of an echo chamber that didn't really allow her to see outside of her situation, and those who did criticize her were just online, so she didn't take them serious. I believe it's really important to try and see if you're in an echo chamber and view your potential actions from an outside perspective. We have seen people make the worst types of mistakes when they don't look critically at the decisions they're making. Overall, this situation was insane, mind-blowing, and bewildering, and the fact that it was documented allows us to really see the mental discontent that goes into this kind of work. In general, as a populace, we should not be supporting this kind of work. Not to say you should go and harass the creators, but we cannot normalize this form of work. That is all I have to say for this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and remember, never goon.